Today we have books that you guys have suggested to me, and these are books that intentionally I did not find out about except for you guys, because there's a lot of books that have been mentioned that I've gone and checked out later that I was like, maybe somebody mentioned it, maybe somebody didn't, but these ones I know for sure. I might be able to do another one of these videos. These are the ones that I looked at through my bookshelf and I was like, these ones I never would have found out except for you guys. So first off, I want to say by thanking you guys, and yeah, we'll talk about some of these books, what I liked about them, and I'm not going to say people's names, but you know who you are. You know that you suggested this to me, and yeah, thank you so much for that. And this is also a sign for you to continue to recommend me books and continue to recommend me things. I might not get to it right away, but I will get to it. So the first thing we have is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I don't really read kind of books like this anymore. Like, you know what I mean? This sort of spiritual, new age, kind of self-help, that kind of book. They're not really things I'm interested in anymore. If I was going to read something like this, I would just read Gurdjieff. I would just read Steiner. I would read somebody like that is just, so leaps and bounds above most of those people in that genre that it's just night and day. But Eckhart Tolle has a really good way of putting things into simple terms and really emphasizing a very important point of, we don't really live in the now. We don't really live in the only set of instances that we can change, the only set of things that we can direct our life. Instead, we live in the past or we live in the future. We worry about things that really aren't real. We worry about things that we don't necessarily kind of need to be. And it really plays off that Seneca quote, you suffer more in your own mind than you do in reality. We suffer more in our own mind than we do in reality. I said that again to emphasize the point and emphasize the importance of, we constantly build things up to be far worse than they actually are, when you could actually go about tackling the problem, where you could focus on the problem. What this book really helped me with was calming myself down and understanding that I'm not really good at handling pressure. So if I am able to lower the stakes, if I'm able to make it seem like a game, if I'm able to lower the importance of things, then I can very much handle my circumstances. But when I'm stressed out, when I'm worried, when I'm thinking worst case scenario, that's when I do my worst. That's when I am unable to perform to the best of my abilities. And it's really a shame. We should always be able to do our best. We should always be able to put our best foot forward. But sometimes our mind tricks us. Sometimes we are not able to get out of our own way. And this book is a very good way to start figuring out these ideas and start thinking about these things. And yeah, overall great book. Thank you for whoever suggested it. I don't specifically remember. It was so long ago, but yeah. Okay, the next thing we have is The Plays of Anton Chekhov. I think that's how you say it. I would be very embarrassed if I couldn't say this, because somewhat similar area where this guy's from where I'm from. But yeah, the play in particular is The Seagull. I just got this because The Seagull and this was pretty much the same price, so I'm like, I'm just going to get the whole collection so that I can go back and read more. I didn't go back and read more, I only read The Seagull, but it was a nice short play, very kind of on its nose with the messaging and the symbolism, and overall just really good. It didn't really kind of come off like I thought it would. When I read a play, I'm like, oh, it's going to use the Shakespearean tropes. Not at all like that, not at all this sort of tragedy in the normal sense, but very good play. I don't really want to reveal it because I feel like when I start giving details about the play, I'm going to just spoil it, because that's really all I remember. I remember the somewhat symbolic aspect of it. I don't really remember the characters and any other stuff, but I had fun reading it. Nice short thing that you can get through in a day and you'll just enjoy the story. And yeah, that's certainly something I need to explore more, the art form of plays. And I don't know, I don't necessarily want to go watch them, but I do enjoy reading them. I do enjoy reading Shakespeare, but to me, my imagination is better than what anybody could put in front of me, so I'm just going to think it's a lesser version of what I see in my own mind. But yeah, you know who you are, I know who you are, so thank you so much for suggesting this. I had a lot of fun reading it, and I can't wait to explore more of Chekhov's plays. The next thing is H.P. Lovecraft. I wish I could remember who told me to read this. I don't. If you're there in the comments, give yourself a shout out, give yourself a round of applause. Lovecraft is weird because I don't quite know what it is about Lovecraft that makes him so interesting. There's something so dark, there's something so mysterious, there's something so weird that words can't put into words can't prove the point of Lovecraft's writing, and there's something so horrific about it, something so page turning, and it almost feels like Lovecraft created his own world. It almost feels like Lovecraft is revealing to you secrets of cults and cryptids and things that are really in the real world but we don't know about. And there's very many people that actually believe that. I don't know who really cares. They're just great stories. But I originally, when somebody said, "Oh yeah, read Lovecraft," I'm like, I don't really like horror. I don't really like that. Little did I know, I would very much enjoy reading them. I would very much enjoy finding some sort of solace in his imagination and his ability to tell a story. And yeah, very interesting writer. Very much recommend go read it. A few of his stories and just get a feel for it, because it's so unlike anything else that you'll ever read. The closest thing that you can really pinpoint to Lovecraft is Kafka, but Kafka is horrific in his own way. He's horrific in his sort of philosophy of the world, where Lovecraft is sort of horrific in his kind of unseen beasts and unseen monsters and unseen phenomena. But yeah, with that said, we'll get into the next thing. The next thing we have is The Courage to be Disliked. Really, really good book. I really enjoyed reading this. This is a book that I wish I read like 5 years ago, because I feel like if I read this book 5 years ago, it really would have helped me with a lot of things. Essentially, it's a boy who goes to a philosopher, even though he's just using Adlerian psychology, which is, it's weird. There's this really weird carryover between philosophy and psychology. If you read Freud's interpretation of dreams, he pretty much just cites Schopenhauer and Goethe and I think Nietzsche as well. I'm trying to remember exactly who he cites, but he cites a lot of philosophers, a lot of people that you would recognize their names. And what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of inspiration that psychology takes from philosophy, but we don't always like to acknowledge that anymore. But it's interesting because essentially it's a conversation between a boy and sort of an enlightened master, the old man archetype, and really kind of coming to grips with life, really coming to grips with the world as a whole, and learning how to see things, learning how to flip the script and understand things in a different context that you can face life. And like I said, this is something that I wish I read 5 years ago, because I feel like it very much would have helped me. Not saying it's surface level in any way, but I just think these issues aren't really things that I deal with, but it really will help you in a lot of ways to deal with the everyday life that we're facing, the everyday struggle that we're facing, and how to reframe things. I'm at the point where I always just reframe things instinctively when I'm not enjoying a certain scenario, where I'm not looking at things the right way, and I know I'm being negative, I know I'm being passive aggressive towards myself. Then I can somewhat change my own thinking. But there was a time where I couldn't do that, and there's a time where I really struggled with a lot of things, and I think this book can really help you out. With that said, we'll get into the last thing. Last thing is Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut. Somebody had recommended, I know who it is, but I'm just going to say somebody had recommended Kurt Vonnegut to me, and I just never picked it up. And then they kept saying it, and eventually I was at a used bookstore and I saw this book, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to spend the $3 or $4 that it's going to cost me for this book. It sat on my shelf for a week or two, and I was like, you know what? This book's very short. I can get through it very, very quickly. And I'm glad I did, because it's honestly a horrific novel. It's about the bombing of Dresden, and how Dresden is one of the greatest atrocities that has ever happened to any civilization in humanity. And it's not even just for the sheer mass of life. Like, that's horrific, but also just look up pictures of Dresden before. It looks like a utopia. It looks like some sort of Atlantean civilization that was kind of preserved through time, and now it's probably just more of the same old architecture, more of the same old boring nonsense that we see with modern day skyscrapers and modern day buildings. And it really is a symbol of the destruction of civilization. And it's really sad to see that, like, a lot of history was erased by both world wars, and some people say that's intentional. I don't know if that's the case, but it kind of sucks to see that we've lost some pieces of history and some pieces of society that really prove that maybe there was people that understood things that we don't yet understand, and that we should have some sort of reverence for the past and some sort of understanding, and maybe we could pick things from that past that we could bring to the future to better our own lives. But essentially, I got way off on a tangent, but essentially the book is about Kurt Vonnegut. It's I feel like it's somewhat autobiographical. I don't know if he's ever confirmed it, but he definitely drew from his own experiences in World War II. And, it's kind of a fractured view of the war. It flashes between the current day existence of the character and the past experience, and you're slowly being revealed what happened, his experience, why he is the way he is, why he somewhat struggles with his day-to-day life. And it really is interesting. Very honest take on the war. It's not meant to think that it's some great work and we were the good guys and everything we did was justified. No, it's in fact the opposite. And I really think it's well worth reading because it's going to give you a perspective that you might not have ever experienced. And it's a dark, depressing book, but there's something in it that I think is essential to understand about life, existence, humanity, and somewhat of the futility of it all. But yeah, those are, I think, 5 books that you guys have recommended to me. Please use this as a sign to recommend me more. There's a link somewhere in the description of the video of to recommend me books. Go ahead, use that. If not, just recommend them in the comments. I'll probably see them. Sometimes comments get lost, but if I don't see it the first time, if you don't see it for a while, continue to recommend me books because it's really interesting that you could have such a great experience with an author. Like, to me, William Blake is somebody that has all but changed my life and all but changed the way I view the world and the way I view myself. But, there's a lot of people that haven't heard of it. There's a lot of people that will never pick up a William Blake book. And that's what makes, to me, books and literature and things of that sort so fascinating because everybody knows the greatest movies. Everybody knows the greatest songs and the greatest artists in that fashion, but so few people know certain authors that have fundamentally changed my world, and it's such a cool thing. So I'm always interested to find out what affected other people and how other people have been impacted by certain authors. And that's always a sign for me that maybe I should just jot down this name. Maybe I should just remember this name so that in the future when I do have the time, when I do have the absence of a stack of books in front of me to go ahead and pick that up. And yeah, with that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun making this, and I had a lot of fun giving thanks to you guys. I didn't mention any names, but you know who you are if you recommended me this book, and I can't thank you enough for recommending me whatever book it is that you gave me. So peace out. Love you guys. I will catch you the next one.